I don't believe that all companies have to share the same values or the same principles. Maybe there are some universal principles, but I think each company culture is very different. But it's important that you understand the one you want to build and develop and foster and get people on board to that, and make sure there's alignment and spend a lot of time ensuring alignment, because that has a carryover effect into just so many other things, almost everything that you do.
Welcome to the Future of GovCon, a weekly podcast that looks at what is happening now and how it will impact the future of our industry. I'm Jake Frazer, owner and CEO of Precision Talent Solutions. In leading one of the industry's top executive search firms, I talk to influencers across the industry every day. C-suite executives, growth officers, diplomats, senior government officials, and top flag officers. Every week, we bring in experts from across GovCon, cyber, AI, space, NATO, medical, and more. And we'll have them share the key trends happening today and how our industry will look in the years to come. So pour a cup of coffee and let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Future of GovCon podcast. I'm Jake Frazer. I am thrilled to be here. This is our first recorded episode. I'm thrilled to be here with a dear old friend of mine, former business partner, just a real proud veteran and a business guy that's had a huge impact on my life, Patrick Malcor. He's dialing in, coming in from across the lake over in Walkville, Switzerland. Patrick, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here, Jake, and great to start off this podcast, the first episode with you.
You were there with me when we had the idea. We were having dinner one of the evenings at AUSA last year, and we're like, this industry needs a good podcast. So there's a thought to collaborate on this, but I had to get it going, and it only makes sense to have Patrick as our first guest. We go way back to 1995. We met in our basic course. I could tell some stories between here and there 30 years ago. We've spent a lot of time together over the years and done some really cool things. And so it just makes sense to have Patrick on to join the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And we actually kind of grew up in parallel lives. So I'm going to ask Patrick to kind of talk a little bit about how he grew up, and you can kind of change his story and copy and paste mine. It's very similar. So Patrick, talk a little bit about how you grew up and evolved into getting into the government contracting industry.
Sure, happy to. I grew up. My family, my mother's side of the family is from Louisville, Kentucky. My mother was a Dodds school teacher at Fort Knox, Kentucky. She met my father, who was a young armor officer attending the advanced course there many, many moons ago. And so I grew up moving, they got married, obviously, and we moved around as he pursued his career. He was 36 years in the Army, retired as a general officer, and in the Louisville area. And in between, we moved around all over the Southeast and East Coast, and a couple times in Germany. And I ended up going to a few different high schools. And I think, as you know, Jake, when you grow up around the military, it seems quite natural to go into the Army yourself. I mean, if you grow up with every adult male is wearing a uniform, it seems like a pretty natural progression.
I didn't think we didn't have a choice. I mean, it was kind of
I just thought that's what you do, right?
Yeah, I love GSA furniture and that smell of the fries cooking in the officers' clubs. Yeah,
absolutely. Going to Thanksgiving at the DFAC. I mean, that was something I grew up with, and so it seemed pretty natural. Then you add to that they might pay for college. And that seemed a pretty compelling thing to do. And so I ended up going to Davidson College and on an Army ROTC scholarship. And I just thought, that was the natural thing to do.
He was an English literature major,
Mm-hmm.
which is very handy. It's very handy in the Army.
Yeah, I'm not really qualified to do much. In fact, I always say that I didn't really think much beyond the Army. I didn't do.
No.
I was just thinking. I was in college and I was, getting my degree and having a good time. And I was thinking, well, I have a job, so I don't really need to do much on that front. And I graduated, had a job.
All those suckers were putting on suits and going to interviews. And I was like,
they were getting shaved up and going to banking interviews and doing internships and stuff. And I was like, that's for chumps.
I got a job.
And I got a job already. And so so I went from graduation to the basic course at Fort Knox, Kentucky, because you and I were armor officers.
We were honor grads. We were honor grads on there or something.
I don't think I was.
Yeah. We made it. Well,
I don't know about that.
I think we did.
That's questionable.
All right.
I don't know about that. So, but yeah, we made it through. I didn't think much of past. I never thought of, I think, in my family, there's a lot of public service. My mother was a teacher and my sister is a prosecutor, public prosecutor. Yep. Brother-in-law is a police officer. So I didn't really know much about business or never thought I would, get into industry. I didn't really think much of it. And so I think the transition was, I think we were in the Army in the 90s and we went to Bosnia together.
The NIA,
and we were exposed to contractors pretty early in our career. And then even when we came back, I was a maintenance officer and I was working in the motor pool with all these mechanics, and there was all these contractors, and they seemed to have, pretty good. They were all ex-military guys who had gotten out, and then they seemed to be doing better as contractors, as civilians. So this seemed like, something to do.
A better way to make a living than wearing that. I still remember clearly. I think when it's flipped in my mind that I wanted to get out of the Army and go into government contracting, you were running Checkpoint Charlie out in the zone of separation. We did a relief in place, and my platoon came in and took over. We renamed it, actually.
You're shooting me here.
And I asked you, I said, so what do we got to watch out for? Landmines, small arms fire, Serbian lunatics. And you said, no, the generator. And I was like, what do you mean? He says, yeah, that generator back there is not big enough for this checkpoint. And if that generator goes out, you got no lights, you got no radio, you got no coffee, and y'all have been cutting foam padding out of seat cushions to use as air filters.
Yeah.
And you laughed, and I was like, oh, man. And sure enough, that generator would bog down, and all the lights would go down. And one day, this guy showed up in a pickup truck and a baseball cap. He's probably from Leesville, Louisiana, the brown root guy. I didn't know what brown root was. And he asked me what's wrong, LT? And I was like, that generator. He's like, that generator's not big enough for the checkpoint. I said, I know. That's what the last guy told me. And I'd asked the S4. I'd tried to get help and never could get support. And that guy said, sign this and I'll be back tomorrow. And I signed a work order. I didn't know what it was. And I signed a work order. The next day, that guy showed up with a lowboy, an FG Wilson generator with sound attenuations and external fuel tanks. He set that generator up and he fired it up and he said, don't worry about that generator, LT. Do your job. I'll take care of the generator. And he cranked that thing up and the lights were on. You could have 3 coffee pots going on. I said, well, that's what I want to do. That's when it clicked for me.
And then he brought some shower units and you could take a warm shower.
Yeah, we got rid of the bucket shower. Yeah.
He brought better food. He brought some actual food that was you could eat. And it was pretty good. And he showed up 2 times a day and you thought, oh, okay.
Cost plus contracting is great,
It was working pretty well. I'm back in the motor pool. I wasn't going to, Sergeant Jones to get my tanks fixed. I was going to this contractor who had like 30 years of experience and was, an expert in maintenance, had been some warrant officer. He knew everything about that tank or that Humvee or whatever. And I would say, I didn't need to lead him or tell or explain anything or set his schedule. I would just say, hey, that thing needs to be serviced or that thing's broken. And he would fix it. He knew what to do. He went right after it. And so this seemed like a pretty good thing to do. And
So
then,
how did you make your transition into government contracting? I remember the moment, but
well, I know you went first. So you got out first, and you had been out already, maybe a year ahead of me or something, or sometime ahead of me. You got a job at Brown and Root down in the Balkans. And I was getting out and was thinking, I didn't have a lot of ideas about what to do, but I thought that now that I knew contractors and I had seen them and had an idea that that was a better way of living, I asked you if there was any jobs down there where you were, and you were in Hungary at the time. And I remember very clearly, I just took your resume. You sent me your resume, and it was pretty clear. I just changed Vanderbilt to Davidson, and I changed Alpha Troop to Charlie Troop. We had all the same job. We had essentially the same, just changed the address and name at the top and sent it in there, and ended up getting hired.
so you wind up on the Balkan support contract. And so for those of you out there listening, this is before Log Cap 3. There was Log Cap 2 going on, but DynCorp had it and it wasn't doing anything. And they set up a separate contract called the Balkan support contract. And it was cost plus reimbursable 10% award fee. So what was your first impression when you got down to the Balkans and got into government contracting?
Well, I remember a moment clearly out in the parking lot, but prior to that, I think as there weren't that many young officers. There were a lot of young officers at that from our age group getting out, but a lot of them going into contracting. And so the company did not have a lot of junior officers that had just gotten out. So they kind of put us in roles where we were involved in a little bit of everything, a little bit of operation and business development. And I remember they used to say that we could write. And so the English major thing kind of came in handy.
Communications major.
Major. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So really nailed it there. And so, yeah, we sort of were involved in everything. It was even hard to say what your job was. They would just like put you in every meeting, and you'd work on every proposal and presentation and event and visit and operational plan and everything. You just sort of got involved in everything. And it was a pretty exciting, as a first job, it was pretty exciting. It was hard work. We worked a lot. We were around great professionals. I remember that group very fondly and really liked working with all those crazy personalities that we worked with. And every area had kind of a super specialist. So, the guy running the fuels department, he was an expert. He knew everything. He'd been doing everything. He knew everything about fuels up and down. The guy running the maintenance department, Shepard, was a complete expert. He knew everything about vehicle maintenance and the mission we had to do down there. And he ran a really great shop, and nothing was ever broken. So you had all these specialists, but you needed this center of gravity of management to sort of hold it together and turn it into a business. And I think being exposed to the business side of how you did the ongoing contracts, as well as how you did new work, how you did business development, how you could add money and funding to the contract to do new stuff, to do innovative things, creative things. And so I remember kind of standing out in the parking lot after we'd been there a couple of years or more. I don't know how long. And you and I were, I think, waiting on a taxi or something. And we were kind of reflecting and said, as a business, this doesn't seem too hard.
Yeah. I remember that.
Like, I think we could do this. And I think we could run I don't even know what we had in mind then, like to just be in management, or I don't know if we're already thinking entrepreneurially at that point, but I remember sort of agreeing this seemed like something we could do. Right?
Yeah. I remember
if
that.
They let us make the decisions.
We're pretty much doing it now and just giving the answers to the retired colonels. So
they're just sort of, I don't see them disagreeing with us very much, so I kind of feels like we're already making the decision. So that's what really like flipped the switch in my mind. Like, okay, this is something we could do.
That contract in the Balkans was kind of for everybody watching, that was kind of like the breeding ground or the formative years for this service industry. And when 9/11 happened, I remember that day very clearly. I think we all do. We were supporting a classified exercise on the airfield in Tazar, Hungary, and the world changed and government contracting changed on that day. And we went into a different gear. And Patrick and I both had clearances, so we could be involved in a lot of the planning. And we got scooped up kind of in separate scoops and got involved in the planning and the setup of LogCap 3, which was just this massive contracting activity. And Patrick was, he was a planner. So he was embedded with the 21st TSC or which one, or was it USER G4?
21st, the 21st TSC in Kaiserslautern, and who was there, the planning team for the 4th Infantry Division, Task Force Iron Horse.
They sent you to Turkey at some point, didn't they?
Yeah. So the original plan or logistics plan that I worked on, or we worked on, was 4th Infantry Division was deploying through Turkey and coming in through northern Iraq.
Right.
And so I spent months starting in 2002. I was Christmas 2002 in Turkey, living at the Mersin Navy Officers Club, because the Navy was kind of the host of the planning team for us. And, thinking fully we were going to receive Task Force Iron Horse in Turkey and deploy them across the country and set up all this infrastructure, and just a massive, massive effort for them to deploy, simultaneously over from the north. I mean, and then it just didn't happen that way.
Yeah, all the planning. So fast forward, so Patrick was the first out of the big corporate bear trap. I'd taken a year off, got my MBA, and I got sucked back into KBR. And you went back to Germany and got a sales job, right? Why a sales job?
I think I was thinking at this time now, I wanted to be in business. I wanted to make my career. And I felt like I had been pretty deep in operations. I had a little exposure to business development, more like strategic business development, writing proposals and that kind of thing. And I just felt like this was a skill set that I needed to be well-rounded and understand business. And I was interested at that time already, although it took me a couple more years. I was interested in doing an MBA and getting some education. And I just thought this was a skill set. Plus, I thought I could be good at it, and it would give me some flexibility to live where I wanted to live in Germany, because my wife was from Germany. I got married. And so that seemed like just a way to round out my skill set. So I started out as a sales guy on a contract in Germany.
So now we wind up, after, I don't know, a year or so, Patrick got promoted up to be the managing director, CEO, and hired me. I was down in Dubai, and we had the chance to take over the leadership of a medium-sized prime contractor. So we go from inside the belly of the beast of the big kind of pace-setting KBR LogCap into a medium-sized prime contractor. And so talk about that experience transitioning from the big machine into something a bit more entrepreneurial.
Oof. I mean, an enormous challenge, just all consuming. And I think suddenly it's sort of contrasting with the moment in the parking lot where we thought, oh, we could kind of do this and we could run a business like this. And then you're in a position running a organization with hundreds of employees and hundreds of millions of dollars in turnover and contracts and multiple sites and countries. And you're really in the position of, okay, now you got to make all the decisions. You got to do everything. You got to run. You got to make sure it makes money. You got to hire people. You got to figure out how you're going to run your operations. You got to take care of the customer. It was just everything was right in front of us and challenging. And it was a very challenging time, of course, 2004, 2005, sort of as the deployment to Iraq is starting to mature, but there's still huge demand and lots of infrastructure and logistics going into that. environment. And so, yeah, it was a huge challenge, and you sort of be careful what you wish for. But I think that sort of sealed the deal on, never going back to working in a large company again, or I really like this, freedom of, full P&L ownership, running the business, hire, fire, make decisions. We got to invest in the business and become shareholders of that company. So we really went to the opposite extreme, from the military to working in a big company to really being in entrepreneurial leadership positions in an international growing company. It was quite the turnaround in our lives, I think.
So much we could talk about from that era, a decade of running this
Yes.
company. What's kind of your one main takeaway from that as you reflect on that experience?
The one takeaway, I mean, I have
Yes.
so many. I have so many good takeaways. It's not. I mean, it's a little. If you ask me for one, maybe it's a little, maybe obvious to some, or obvious now. But I think this important alignment of values, from really across, from the ownership to the management to throughout the organization that you run, so much gets solved by just sharing the same values and the ideas of right and wrong, and what's fair and what's good, and how to run your day, which goes into so many different areas. It goes into it's really the culture of the company. That just takes care of a lot of everything, right? And I didn't put much for. I was inexperienced when we went into that, and I didn't naturally put a lot of focus on that. But that just was like a steamroller effect of the more you got like-minded people. And I don't believe that all companies have to share the same values or the same principles. Maybe there are some universal principles, but I think each company culture is very different. But it's important that you understand the one you want to build and develop and foster, and get people on board to that, and make sure there's alignment, and spend a lot of time ensuring alignment, because that has a carryover effect into just so many other things, almost everything that you do. So
I would have said the
I would
power
say,
of getting the right people in, and it's the values. I mean, because we didn't have a lot of, I think we had one written policy. I think it was an IT usage policy that they made us do, but otherwise we hired really good people and empowered them and did a lot of coaching. We used an outside whisperer, this guy named Chuck, who I still use in my business. His daughter is now supporting me, but that clicked in my mind, is the power of people and using productive people tools, the assessment tools, the feedback tools, the coaching, the 9 blocks, the 360s. And I, of course, that's why I, was so passionate about getting Precision Talent Solutions up and running at some point. Just, I thought, if any industry needed good people tools, it's our industry, because you're taking people and putting them out in some very difficult, challenging, stressful, trying situations way, way, way far away from the headquarters and the flagpole. And therefore, the better you can hire, the better you can screen, the better tools you have, then the more successful your business would be. And I think that's why we were successful. And I think that's why we had such a great team.
I would also add to that, the sort of embedded revelation of that is not, it's not like, oh, if you just get the right culture and the right people on board and you just kind of, it's on autopilot or something. It's really a science, right? There is science behind it. There is intention behind it. And it takes a lot of care and management that you have to, if you're not spending time on it. So I think the origin of precision in your, Precision Talent Solution is really intentional, that it's a thing you have to work on and refine and manage and maintain over time. Talk about it, test it, all these tools that you mentioned are part of the picture. So it's a never ending management of the culture, not just a setting and forget it. I think a lot of people get into entrepreneurship thinking, I'll just get some of my friends or people who share my ideas and we'll just work. No, you need to really manage it.
Takes discipline. It takes a lot of focus.
Yeah.
So that was my takeaway, and I think that you share that. And so now we sold that company, moved into more of a very entrepreneurial mode. We had about a year and a half where we weren't technically allowed to work, but we kind of got to work on a bunch of different projects, including launching PTS. We had a management training business, had a kind of ongoing M&A program. And that was a very unstructured, very entrepreneurial period for us, I think, inside the fringes of GovCon.
Absolutely. Just starting from, I don't know if I ever want to have that experience again, or if I have the constitution for it, but I mean, just really starting from scratch, zero, just sitting in a room together, like, okay, what are we going to do? And I think it was very emblematic. I think we did a lot of things correctly. We were very uncomfortably we just started kind of offering expertise and consulting and kind of looking for problems we could solve and going to people that we respected and asking them, hey, what do you need help with? Right. Like, and
we spent about 6 months on the phone just talking to potential future customers and ask them what their pain was. Got all kinds of feedback.
Yeah. What do they like? Work with that. And then I think over time, we did a lot that we worked on. People wanted us to work on business development stuff, on proposals where we had knowledge of programs. Obviously, we did that.
That's right.
We did operational consulting around supply chain and stuff, but more and more, some of those eventual clients or initial contacts specifically said they had problems with people or not problems, but challenges getting people or having talented individuals on their team or goals for recruiting talent. But a lot of them were just like other problems that we ended up relating back to problems. To talent. Most of the operational problems in procurement that we worked on were people problems. Whereas like, well, I can take you through this grind of consulting and doing the whatever reorganization of your workflows in procurement, blah, blah. But if I just got you a really good procurement manager, he or she would figure all this out, right? And do it. So why don't we just do that? And so I think that was the initial origin story of how Precision Talent Solutions emerged, is from all problems were people problems or talent problems, or could be solved with better organizational talent and culture. And so just focus on that. So we the other things melted away, and we just said, let's just focus on that.
Companies don't have supply chain problems. It's people problems in the supply chain. Companies don't have business development problems. They have problems because they don't have the right people growing their business. And that's something I think that's absolutely universal. And I'm proud we took that on. So if you go down the pipeline, if any of you out there listening are military, so you go from military to big publicly traded behemoth, multi-billion-dollar contracts, big company, down to minority shareholders running a mid-size prime contractor, to complete entrepreneurialism, and having the freedom to kind of pick what we're passionate about and focus on it and line up all these years of experience into that. So we got Precision Talent Solutions up and running, and we had a juncture, and Patrick has always had, ever since I've known him, he's had a passion around M&A. Why? What's the passion around M&A?
I think it's the whole like cradle to grave effect, that you take an idea and you go through the full cycle. Like I always compare it to my favorite film director is Quentin Tarantino. I love Tarantino movies. I'm a huge fan, right? And he has the idea. He writes the script. He finds the cast. He sets it up, raises the money. He directs it. He gets out and promotes the movie and goes the whole way through the cycle and just invests in his whole self and sees the project all the way through. Right. And so in a similar
normally
way,
he has a role in the movie too. Like,
yeah, and
even if
then yeah,
obscure.
exactly. Fills a gap or plays
Yeah.
a role in the movie. So yeah, absolutely. So completely,
So
manages the
M&A
entire
is like
process.
Tarantino films. That's good.
It's like a Tarantino film. I
All
think
right.
that's what I think. But from not M&A from an entrepreneurial perspective, like so you think, all right, I want to have an idea. I want to have a strategy, develop a strategy. I go out into the market. I find companies that might be for sale. I promote myself, my protection, or further carrying on of their legacy. We negotiate a deal. We go through that. We raise the funding, put everything together, hire the advisors, the lawyers, the accountants, everything to put the deal together, go through the whole due diligence, sign the deal, and then manage the company after. So to me, it's like it's just exhilarating to me. And I think the opportunity that I went to next in Ajax Defense was really what you said about aligning something where I saw an opportunity to do something that I really enjoyed and was passionate about, not only M&A, but also manufacturing in the defense industry, which I'm passionate about. I love just the nature of the business, the support to the mission is very close to me, and I feel really strongly about it. The need, the mission to rebuild the defense industry, I think, is very important work to be done. So there's one thing on something that I feel strongly about, but also where there's a market opportunity. Or there was definitely a market opportunity. I remember starting Precision Talent Solutions, and somebody said, a lot of people said, there's a reason there's no recruiting firm in government contracting because it's they don't need it, they won't use it. Something that's completely wrong. All of you that might be listening that said this is a bad idea, you were dead wrong about that.
So now you started Ajax Defense. It's a holding company, right? And so the plan is you've acquired a great company and made it even greater, and you have a vision for continued expansion. Is that right?
That's right. So it's sort of Ajax Defense is a private holding company, veteran-owned private holding company, and we're borrowing some good things from private equity, the way private equity firms work in terms of raising capital and strategic growth and buying and improving and developing companies. But we've taken away the restrictions of the kind of classic 5 to 7 year timeline or the multiple funds where you have to go through these cycles of buying and then selling. So we're really, I think in the defense industry in particular, it takes a long time to realize new opportunities, to grow, to expand. And I think practically it doesn't fit very well, although it's definitely done, doesn't fit extremely well into that 5 to 7 year buy to exit timeline that private equity works on. But the idea of having strong operational ownership of a company, hands-on management, strong aligned governance of a privately owned business and professionalizing it, putting in processes and systems that take it to the next level, as everybody says, but really doing that, but doing it for the very long term. So Ajax Defense does not have a artificial timeline since we're a private holding company with private capital. We have a infinite time horizon to keep investing, and that allows us to make decisions for the long term for the business, and to not only buy and build good businesses, but to reinvest back in those businesses and grow them. So the first business that we bought in 2023, it's called Whaling Machine and Tool in Louisville, Kentucky. We did the kind of classic, what would be a private equity playbook of found a company that was for sale. We bought the company. We, made some changes, not much, but we made some changes, tried to improve operational performance and productivity and professionalize management systems. But we also reinvested. So in December 24, 18 months after acquiring the business, we announced a pretty substantial investment in expanding the business, moving it into a facility that's twice as big, plan to grow headcount by up to 50%. We bought new machines. We're looking to onboard new programs in our new facility, which we just moved into this summer. So that's how we're a little bit different. We're taking a private equity approach in terms of the way we invest and have governance and our approach to growth, but doing it with a long-term view on reinvesting and growing the business organically as well.
Talk about I know it's a different type of challenge, but talk about the people challenges in this new sector within GovCon.
I think the people challenge, the talent challenge in manufacturing in general is the principal challenge. And, I think it was just the Secretary of the Navy. You're talking about the submarine industrial base just announced that over the next 10 years, we need to hire 250,000 skilled trades for just the submarine industrial base to build our, 1+1 minus AUKUS target for submarines. 250,000 people need to be skilled trades, trained and developed just for the submarine industrial base. So I think talent in every area of the organization, skilled trades, quality, management, operations, every area of the business is the biggest challenge in manufacturing, for sure. Because there's less people. You have a baby boomer effect of, people are retiring and they're not being replaced. We have problems with I get philosophical, but we have problems in our education system. We have too many people going to college needlessly, studying English. They should be going out and becoming welders and electricians and machinists and getting skilled trades, because those are great jobs which pay more than accounting and IT now for the first time in many decades. So I think it's a great career, but we have a real effort, a concerted challenge from government across industry to get more talent into the industry.
So we're going to shift into talking about the future of government contracting. We've talked a lot about the past, and we could talk endlessly about great stories from the past. But looking at today, and I'd say that I consider myself an aficionado of the industry, but I think Patrick is probably even more so, because he's also in this new area of the manufacturing, been very active, not just in building this business and growing this business, but also in lobbying. I don't know if it's lobbying, but advocating for small businesses and manufacturing, the defense manufacturing basements. Quite a bit of time in DC and talking with politicians and policymakers. So let's look at now. What's happening in your mind right now that's going to have a huge impact on the future of the industry? What do you see the big trends right now?
Well, one big trend is I think overall macro, I think we're at a position in the defense industry broadly, as well as in manufacturing and industrial base, where we're still recovering, and we're transitioning or pivoting from kind of the woes of globalization. I mean, the defense industry suffered from that, maybe got better prices or cheaper products, but definitely lost a lot of its manufacturing capacity in the U.S. and really fragmented the hard supply chain of castings and forgings and metal fabrication and stamping and machining metal and subcomponent assembly and that kind of hard metal bending part of the defense industry. And we're still kind of in the recovery from that, where we're talking about where did the talent go? Let's revitalize the organic industrial base, the commercial defense industrial base. So we're still sort of in that transition right now. And I think there are a lot of things being done on every level. And I think the government's doing a lot of good things to streamline procurement reform and make it easier and more predictable to do business with the government. And so I think there's a lot of emphasis on that, but we're still sort of in the shift hangover mode, I think. But I think the biggest trend right now, that as a result of that transition, which will be a positive trend going forward, is you have a whole new kind of talent base coming in. No, you have a whole new need for talent, as well as a whole new talent base coming in. You know, I'm doing some speaking or participating in workshops and events. I went to Stanford last year to participate at the Hoover Institution's Tech Track 2 program. There's tons of Stanford engineers. They want to get into the defense industry, right? Harvard has a national security accelerator program in their business school and their engineering program for people who want to do startups in the defense industries. Venture capital backed defense tech companies have grown, exponentially. I don't know the top line number, but I think it's $30 billion last year invested in defense tech startups. Every major campus, young people are excited and ambitious to get into the defense industry and get involved and help solve some of these challenges. And that's coinciding with a shift in the talent base where what we need in the defense industry is a better technology-based approach. I mean, we need to bring more, just put it simply, more advanced technology into the way we do everything, the way federal IT, professional services, advanced manufacturing, engineering. We need to do everything more digitally. We need to leverage AI in the way we operate, and that's a huge necessity. We can't just compete on raw scale anymore. We're not going to set up or start that many factories to keep up with our adversaries and our peers around the world for national security. But we can, as we have done in our past, leverage technology. And the technology to leverage is something we're really good at: software, automation, AI. And so I think that's the big story right now, is the need for talent is people who understand operations and technology, right? People who understand operations and software, so I think that's the huge shift we're going through.
That Venn diagram's hard to find, because so many of your experienced operators aren't comfortable with technology. And I mean, you see it across the org charts. The BD shops, those top guys in the top of the BD shops, they don't know how to use the AI to generate proposals and, replicate pricing. And so there's this gap of the old school and the new school. And the overlap of that it's not great right now.
Yeah, and the average, I can say from the perspective I look at, since I try to invest and expand our business, I look at tons of machine shops, high precision machining and manufacturing services businesses, lots of them. And very few are using any kind of like automation in scheduling, in quoting parts, or there's so much that can be done with technology, and it's just a huge gap.
Sure seems like a huge opportunity. All right, so let's look forward. I want to talk about the future. Let's fast forward 3 years. We could do 10. I just want to do something very manageable. 3 years. It's 2028, and give me your view of what the government contracting industry looks like. Whether it's in light of foreign policy, whether it's in light of defense manufacturing, whichever lens you want to look at. Give me how do we look 3 years from now?
I think that on all levels, I think we're starting to disaggregate some of these large umbrella or government-wide acquisition type programs. It was just announced last week, the DoD is killing JSIDs, the showing capability integration.
Yeah.
Something, the centralized requirements review process is being killed. And I think that is rightly decentralizing a lot of authority down into the services, down into the program offices to make better decisions for them at their level, right? For their brand of the warfighter, whether it's a Marine or an airman or a soldier or a sailor. And that's going to create an opportunity for a lot of innovation, right? Because you'll have some within the government now. There will be more decentralized decision making and innovation and looking for ideas and interacting with industry, right? And there is still a continuation of streamlined procurement tools are being more readily available and adopted. Acquisition officers, contracting officers are getting more sophisticated in the way they use other transaction authorities and OTA contracts and the way they're using SIPR grants, where they're using small business contracting, rapid contracting tools. And so I think if you look only 3 years out, I think you're seeing the cross section of more decentralized decision making on requirements and your major requirements, whether that's the way we integrate information across different domains, like a multi-domain JADC2 type of environment, or whether it's the way we buy different types of drones or autonomous vehicles in the industrial base. I think there's a lot of decentralization, and contracting is becoming more streamlined, and so that favors. It might be a little less efficient in the way we do business, but it's going to chase a lot of new ideas. And I think if you're in government contracting, you need to be ready for that decentralized, multilateral, 360-degree battlefield, I guess, of government contracting. And it's or much less so going to be about a hitch your ride to a major program and you're just going to ride it for 10 years, right? I mean, if you get on,
that ain't gonna work.
Just name your major program, right?
Yeah.
The ones on it have been on it for a long time, and it's true in the hardware side as well as the software and services side. Contractors get on these contracts and ride them forever. I think those days are in many ways, thankfully, going away.
Yeah. You, like me, you're kind of a Europhile, married a European, have spent 30 something years living in Europe. Our next guest is actually a recently retired, like freshly retired 3-star. He was at the NATO summit where they talked about the 5% target of GDP spend on defense for NATO, for the European side of NATO. And so you have a very U.S. lens from your current business, but how do you see the Europeans scaling, adapting, trying to achieve those very, very robust goals of 5% of GDP from manufacturing, but also from a services perspective?
How they meet them economically, I don't know.
Do they have the capacity to do it? The actual operational capacity? Do they have the services to deliver? Let's assume the money's there. They're gonna have to.
Yeah. I hope that it means could be even. I hope it doesn't sound naive, but it's maybe hopeful. I hope that it means greater. It will definitely require greater partnering within Europe. Right? Europe cannot have 28 different tanks and however many different aircraft. They can't have national champions at every level. They have to. So, and I think they are in many.
They're trying.
Many ways.
Yes. Yeah.
They're trying, and I think they need to do more of that. And my wishful thinking is that it increases the level of partnership with the U.S. and the U.S. Industrial base. That it strengthens NATO. That all partners are investing. Spending money trying to develop their infrastructure in their industrial base, and that we're doing it in a partnering way. I mean, my company in Louisville just delivered the 250th, or our portion of the 250th rolling airframe missile that we build in conjunction with Raytheon, our customer Raytheon, and that is the longest standing German American bilateral industrial partnership in the world. It's been
Wow.
something 30 years old. We build that in partnership with the RAM consortium in Germany, with a few German contractors, including Deal Defense. And so I think we don't realize how much of our hardware, our systems, our weapon systems are built in partnership with our allies, and because a lot of it is, and I'd like to see more of that, and I hope that 5% or an increased spending target means it's more of an imperative for continued partnering and sharing of ideas and industrial capacity.
It's going to take trust. It's going to take a lot of trust, and also people have got to see the benefits of that versus the traditional drawbacks and the parochialism and the nationalism. Got to have the bigger picture here. So,
absolutely, I think that's the only way it works. You can't have each country spending on their own stuff. I mean, it just doesn't work that way.
Right. We're going to run out of time here. I'm going to ask you for one word. One word. It can be hyphenated, that describes your feeling about the future of GovCon.
I would say exciting. I've never been more excited to be in defense. I always tell the story. I went to business school 20 some years ago, and we were doing our intros, and they give you a little card to fill out, put your name, where you're from, and what industry you're in. Aerospace and defense wasn't even one of the industries you could choose.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And so now you have, I get approached by Harvard graduates, smart Harvard engineer, MIT guys who want to get into defense and build stuff for the Defense Department. And I think there's a lot of change, and there's an important mission to support. And I feel very strongly about it. And I couldn't be more excited to be in the defense industry. So
excited. I like that. We're going to have a mural of the words up here one day. So I like that one. Well, look, it's an honor. It's great. I can't believe after 30 years of knowing each other and working together, now we're doing a podcast talking about the future of GovCon. But here we are. You're certainly welcome to come back. I know we'll do this on a regular basis, maybe crack open some of those old stories based upon requests from the crowd. Maybe even get like a legend on here, get a John Downey on here and pepper him with questions about his view of the world. But it's really good to have you on here, Patrick. I'm pulling for you all the time. I wish you the best with Ajax and everything you're doing out there. To everybody in the audience, hopefully you had a good time on the first episode. We got some great guests. We have very senior folks from NATO, from Latin America experts, ambassadors, CEOs lined up here over the next few weeks. So make sure you stay tuned, do the subscribe, share this with your friends. We got to get the word out to everybody. If there's anything that comes to mind that you'd like to see, any guest you would recommend that might want to join us, shoot them to me on LinkedIn or on my email. And make sure you're following Precision Talent Solutions on LinkedIn. We're putting out information every day about contract awards, programs, policy changes, major program shifts, positions that we're hiring for. So make sure you're following us so you're right up to the spigot of information for the government contracting industry. Any final words, Patrick? First podcast with your friend Jake.
It was wonderful to walk down that memory lane with you. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm thrilled that I have some association with you and Precision Talent Solutions and the great things that you guys are doing. I really believe you're you are the leading voice in talent for this industry, and I think you're doing great things. And I really am very happy to be here on the first episode. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you on the next episode. So thanks for joining me on the Future of GovCon. If you enjoyed today's conversation, Share it with a friend. Follow the podcast and subscribe to YouTube so you don't miss our bold predictions shaping our industry. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn and learn more about Precision Talent Solutions at pts.careers. Thanks for tuning into the Future of GovCon, and see you next week.